Now, Mr.
Thank you.
Regal, you
Yes.
said at some point, Mr. Fit Finley, became the man. He
Okay.
became the man.
It became the man, and you can watch the progression if you watch um, matches of him. You'll see him with short hair, and then you see him start. He ended. He was. Uh, he was in. He was married to a lovely lady called Paula Valdez, who was a wonderful women's wrestler from Manchester. She became his. They then made Paula, who was one of the few ladies that got on TV in Britain, his manager as Princess Paula. And all of a sudden, he changed the look that he had with the short hair. He started growing his hair, and he started wearing green and white tights and trunks with shamrocks on. And I think we've talked about this, that all of a sudden Fit Finlay knew how to he could cause a riot in a phone box. He was so good at getting true heat. And when I say heat, I mean people wanting to, all the fans wanting to attack him.
But it wasn't wait for the ref's back to be turned kind of heat, right?
It
Was it just
was,
his character,
it
just
was
the way it
just
addressed the audience?
everything. It was turning away from the
Okay.
referee. It was everything. It was everything he did. He knew exactly how to make people hate. He was an expert villain, right? Now, all of a sudden, not only is an expert villain who can, I want to get this before I forget this. So there was a time once he grew his hair and he started wearing the green stuff and he had a green cape and he had this big cavalier hat with a big green feather on it. And he had the longest name in wrestling. So we'll go back to the other stuff, how he got there, but he had the longest name in wrestling. And they used to introduce him as from Belfast, the Belfast Bruiser, Superman, Dave Fit Finlay. That was it. That was how they introduced him. The Belfast Bruiser, Superman, Dave Fit Finlay.
I gotta be honest, with that name and you describing his hat, I hate him already. Like, I
Right.
really I can't stand him.
And he used to stand there, and Paula was a heat getting machine as well. She 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 would just
That's his
rile
wife, right?
crowds up. Yes, his wife, his ex-wife. Um, and unfortunately, she's no longer with us. She was always lovely to me. But she was a great wrestler, and she knew how to just manipulate crowds. And so you've got her, Paula, doing her thing and knowing exactly how to do it because she's been around wrestling since she started as a teenager. Um, and wrestled full time for all these opposition promoters. And now she's with Dave, and Dave's all of a sudden gone from what he started as. I mentioned the Davy Boy Smith match. You'll see the way he used to, the stuff that he wore. Sometimes he wore just regular trunks, sometimes he wore tights, but he had a short haircut. Now he's wearing these green tights and trunks, um, and shamrocks on them. And we've talked about this in a time when
It's a
Ireland and
it's
the
a political
IRA,
statement,
a
you're right.
political thing, the IRA were at war with Britain
But, like, not a political statement like today, like a political statement with, like, blood and
with
guns and
and
war.
guns and bombs going off
Just
regularly in both countries.
so when he's coming in with that, that is a statement. I like it, and you guys aren't exactly oceans and oceans apart. Like, this is a very real thing for a lot of people
This is
watching,
a
right?
very, very real thing because you are fed. Again, I've said this before. Nothing to do with normal people from either country. It's a government
Right,
thing.
right.
Okay,
As it usually is.
right. Um, so, but you are fed. The working classes of Britain are fed whatever they're fed by the media, and so there's this ridiculous. There's no other word for it, but racism and hatred going on between the English and the Irish for no reason, but it just stirred up by the media, and it's a government problem, and certainly not working class people. It's got nothing to do with them, but there's this
Everybody swept up in it.
swept up in it, and
Mhm.
I thankfully in my house, my dad worked with a lot of Irish people, and it was just oh, it was worked with a lot of people from a lot of all over the world, different parts of the world. Once people started coming to England in the after World War II, because they were in construction, so they learned that everybody's the same.
Sure, for sure.
But that's not everybody, and the British and Irish thing, I think, still goes on to this day.
Mhm.
Some of this stuff, I mean, and me and Fit Finlay played off it when we came to America. I mean,
You
it was that we didn't, we were just doing our thing, but
I
it was
say
mentioned on commentary that, about the British and the Irish having problems. It was a thing. So all of a sudden, I'm still watching wrestling. I'm not actually inside the wrestling game yet. And Fit Finlay is the there he's
he's wearing the
this guy.
Irish gear.
Yes, he's
He's
wearing the Irish gear, and I've
right.
talked about this, but he was, going out and getting spit on in the street, and Paula getting spit on at the supermarket, and this is serious, serious stuff. And he
And I say this about the IRA and the war to our American listeners to who might understand this is if we think of an equivalent in our American wrestling, it might be the Iron Sheik during the hostage crisis,
right,
but this is about 10 times more intense and a 10 times
yes.
more widespread and it hit home because people had family members who were involved in this thing. And
And get and then you'd hear the news had come on, and if you're Irish, there's such and such happened in Ireland. If you're British, there's bombs gone off and places getting blown up in England. And it's a serious issue, right? Thankfully, that that I've got my stories of times when I was in Ireland in the late '80s, and very scary. And I wasn't scared much,
by much,
but
yeah.
but I've seen some scary things there,
And
right?
Fit
Fit
just
played that up to the
playing
hilt.
into it is really, but it takes a lot of balls and also
Takes a lot of
absolutely.
courage, and he
Right.
wasn't frightened. That he wouldn't back down to anybody. So you got Fit, whoever he's on with, he is the villain. He is the absolute top villain in Britain,
I
and
assume usually
the
someone
best
British.
wrestler.
He's usually wrestling someone from
It
England.
didn't matter. It
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
matter. They
yeah,
just
okay. Right.
he just ate him. But he was so good. I mean, he was just brilliant. He was whatever. So I'm gonna backtrack a bit here.